Hello there. Welcome back to the Madhouse. This is your it's one of the inmates actually. This is Frantz Kantor, cartoonist, illustrator, and teacher and
Madhouse caricaturist.
And I'm at the Cartoon Museum with the
Jim Bridges, and I'm the founder of the Cartoon Museum, and here in downtown fabulous Melbourne, Docklands.
So I'm going to do another. I'm doing another caricature, and this time I thought I'd do an Australian cartoonist.
And it's not Woody Allen.
Children's book illustrator.
It's not Woody Allen.
Why would you say Woody Allen? So it's the author and artist Leigh Hobbs.
Yes.
Who did Mr. Chicken Goes to Paris and
Mr. Chicken Goes to London.
But he's mainly known for his cat,
Old Tom.
Old Tom.
Yeah.
So this is Leigh. He's got a really interesting face.
He has.
Very, very inscrutable in many ways, but we'll sort of investigate his expression. One thing I'm attracted to shapes, simple shapes, and especially like symbols and things. And the one thing that I wanted to explain to you a little bit about it. I'll talk to you more about that in a second. But I'm here with Jim, so Jim is going to tell me a little about. We're going to talk about Leigh's career. I've done a caricature, like a thumbnail, and I kind of like this plectrum shape, like this. It's very, very simple and nice. And you can throw other shapes in, like the ears and things, and have them sort of offset, with a different shape for the body, different angle. So it's quite nice. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the lighting. It's beautifully lit reference. So the light's coming in from the top left, which means that the shadows are going to be favored on the bottom right-hand side of the drawing. There's also a lovely rim light, a backlight that they've got in the shot too, which is giving me a nice point of difference, so to break up the shadow area with a light to increase the contrast and make it sort of interesting. So the other thing I wanted to mention was, so I'm changing the shape of his head, right? So it's not a portrait, it's a caricature. So caricatures invite a sense of play into the drawing process. So when you're drawing something, you are looking at anatomy. You are thinking about anatomy, especially like things that stick out in the features, like cheekbones and the cranium, etc. But and everything to do with anatomy, like perspective, which is the spatial information about the object, how the object is affected by space. Okay, so it has to be it's a three-dimensional drawing, and we're using spatial clues or spatial information to describe it, as well as light and shade. So there's quite a lot of things to think about, but it's not a shopping list, so you think about it while you do it. So it's sort of an organic process of learning and inquiry in the drawing process. The other thing too I wanted to notice, he's got a very distinctive mouth shape, which kind of looks like an arrow. So if you were to reduce Leigh Hobbs to a very simple cartoon, that's something that you would consider, which is interesting. So, very very beautiful face, as a matter of fact, in many ways, I think, because of the simple, I think the simplicity and the honesty of it.
Yes, but a very reflective face.
Yeah.
He shows all his emotions.
Yeah, so I've done just a very quick thumbnail in the plectrum shape that I was favouring, and I've taken the time to explain that, or to transpose that idea onto the drawing paper, which is a Strathmore grey, which is a warm grey, and we're using some brown pencils, which is, I think, these things. So it's all kinds of different browns. There's a terracotta. There's a couple of Prismacolors and a Rembrandt pencil. Very good quality pencils. We're using white pencils, so we're actually drawing light, and we're using some black pencils to get into the details in the shaded areas. Okay, so as well as that, we'll probably be using some pens, not that one, be using some white and black Poscas. They come in different shapes and sizes. All right, so let's get into it. I've started drawing, as I said, Leigh from this photograph here. I kind of like the lighting and the situation, the expression, and everything is very clear. So we shouldn't have any trouble getting some form of likeness. But as I said always, you know, these things are not, it's not a foregone conclusion. We may lose our way, which is part of the journey. It's part of the fun. So Jim, tell me a little bit.
Stay on the path and don't get too far off the path. You know.
Well, sometimes it's good fun to get off the path.
Oh yes.
So you want to tell me?
End up into the woods. You know? Well, Leigh Hobbs. Leigh Hobbs is a very interesting bloke.
He's not a poet laureate. He's a
kids book laureate.
Kids book laureate.
He was. He had a job, Australian. And they go around and they promote kids' literature.
Yep.
All over Australia.
Kids lit.
And he travels extensively. He travels overseas. He loves architecture. He loves going to old buildings all over the world. Dresden, London.
Dresden. There's still old buildings in Dresden.
Well, there's a famous
after Slaughterhouse 5. I would have thought
there's a famous church that got destroyed during the Dresden bombing, and he went over there to see it because they rebuilt it. They rebuilt it, and these things take hundreds and hundreds of years to build, and of course they built it
10
back.
years to rebuild.
Yeah, and his favourite artist is Ronald Searle.
Yeah,
and
Ronald Searle's got a nice loose style.
Well, Ronald Searle's got this. He's one of the major cartoonists of the last century. He just is. He dominated. He was more during the 60s. In the early 60s in England, he was more popular than the Beatles. And in that period, because he did St. Trinians and all his cartoons were so popular, that he actually shot through and left England and lived in France for the rest of his life, very secluded. He didn't want to.
This sounds like a tax thing.
Well, no, he couldn't stand all the
fame and fortune.
Yeah, he couldn't stand it all. But
the Beatlemania.
Yeah, the early days of Beatlemania. He was bigger than the Beatles.
Right.
And anyway, the thing is about Leigh is that Leigh goes into second-hand bookshops looking for stuff, and when he finds copies of Searle's books, which he's already got,
he steals them.
No, he buys them and he gives them to people. He
as gifts.
He recycles because he wants people to
learn about Searle.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful thing. You know?
It is.
He was a school teacher for about 23 years, and he's a great communicator.
Yeah, you need that.
He's a great communicator. He hated teaching. He tells me.
Everybody does.
Yeah, but he
ask me about it.
I went to the Sun Theatre in Yarraville, and the theatre was full of kids, and he was having a drawing class, and he was getting to draw Old Tom.
Right.
And he was telling the kids to shut up, and he really got them going. And he really was a great ringmaster, cracking the whip. All these kids are messing around, and he fixed them all up. He was, very impressive.
Right.
And all the talks I've seen him give, he's very funny, straight to the point, honest, and Anyway, he as a young man he was in Sydney, and he worked on Luna Park because Luna Park had fires and all sorts of stuff in Sydney.
But not as rides though.
No.
You talk about the ghost train with the real ghosts.
Yeah, but it shut down for quite a period.
20 years or so.
Yeah, and then when it opened up, he actually worked on the merry-go-round and also on figures. They have these large figures, paper mache figures. And he came down in Melbourne and he worked also on the front of the Luna Park face. they redesigned it slightly.
Right.
And he did the colouring and all that sort of stuff.
To make it more contemporary.
Yeah, and he's done lots of things. He turned the main railway station at Flinders Street into a teapot. So he's done all sorts of stuff, sculpture and pottery.
Yeah.
And he's known now for his kids' books.
Yep.
Old Tom and Mr. Chicken. Hang on, Mr. Chicken. Mr. Chicken goes to Rome, goes to Australia, goes to London, goes to Paris.
Goes everywhere.
Horrible Harriet, who's this... yeah, I think his next book is going to be... I think he's dragging... he's going back to Horrible Harriet. She's a character. School kiddie, sort of one of the... I mean, I think he based all these things he learned as a school teacher, all these kids.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, and he's loved. He's absolutely loved by school kids all over the world. He's travelled all over the world, and he's walked into buildings, in schools, in Alaska and all sorts of places, and they've got the whole wall where about every kid in the school has drawn Old Tom. So there's a whole wall of Old Tom drawings, and he's even got dolls that kids have sewn with buttons and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, wonderful, yeah.
And I think, as an artist, he's got more feedback from his great fans, who are the kids, than most other artists. You know, because a lot of artists are popular, but they don't get any they don't get the feedback, do they? No. Like when you were doing stuff with the Australian and the Sydney Morning Herald,
the fish and chip paper.
Yeah, but what sort of feedback did you get?
Oh, the Herald's great fish and chip paper, the Herald.
What sort of feedback did you get? I mean, the only feedback you get is... Yeah.
None.
Maybe someone in the office said, great drawing yesterday, Frantz, or...
No, they're too busy.
Not even that.
No,
yeah.
Too busy.
So the kids send in letters and all that sort of stuff, and because his drawings are so naughty, he's got this naughty style. Rough and ready, but he can draw. It's just that kids think that it's his drawing's very approachable, and they love. Like Old Tom walks around with a bung eye, and he carries a fish skeleton with him with a fish head.
Yeah,
and kids love all that stuff. There's the yuck factor.
Yeah.
Anyway, recently he was given that job as the children's book.
Laureate.
Yeah, where he goes around to all the schools and stuff for promoting school literature. And he's a great talker.
Well, we're kind of losing a lot of literature, so it's an ongoing battle, I think, because kids are obviously more attuned to tablets now than paper.
Yeah.
So, and we're trying to I guess they're trying to sort of make tablets more paper-like, by having the texture and the feel and the sound and things, but we'll see. I mean, in one way it's good because, really books have been responsible for tearing down forests. And
are you going on your anti-book rant again?
It's not so much anti-book, it's just being practical. I think, there's a need for books. I love books, but I think they should be very expensive and very limited. So they're only really for collectors, not for everybody. So I think they should be either on a lending basis, limited in number, and, try to get them to go to the PDFs.
The PDF?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Get them to do that.
Frantz's views don't...
It burns less fossil fuel.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's more environmentally friendly a PDF than a paper book, and to be honest, I hate going past bookshops where they have remainder stock, because it's such a terrible shame to see books that are commercialized to the point where you've got so many books that won't sell, so they discount them. So it's kind of an insult to the writer and the artist.
Well, I mean, the vast majority, and I know this for a fact, the vast majority of cartoon books go remaindered because people look at a cartoon, they sit there in the shop and they flip through it. Oh yeah, look at that.
That's enough.
Look at that. That's it. And then they walk away. They don't buy the book.
Seal the books in plastic so they have to buy them.
That's right. They seal them in. That's right.
Yeah.
Although
no browsing, folks.
Comics.
Imagine doing that with. You ever gone into a comic shop as a kid and said, "Hey, this is not a reading room. You either buy it or get out."
Well, the world's changed a lot now. We have graphic novels in libraries. Apparently, the sales of graphic novels are going through the roof for the first time.
Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know. They're $30 plus.
Is that why? Because they're...
Well, I mean, they're just comics with stiff covers as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of them are, I mean, a lot of people have just gone down the Robert Crumb path and just done personal biographies, but and now they're doing famous novels, 1984 and Animal Farm and, Wuthering Heights, all the Shakespearean stuff.
Right. Yes, I really loved Will Shakespeare's Wuthering Heights. I thought that was
all his plays. Like there's about 10 versions of Hamlet in manga by different artists.
You're right. Okay, in manga.
Yeah, just in manga alone.
So not even a Western style, just manga, just straight to
manga.
Oh no,
there's lots. Actually, an Australian woman, Nikki Greenberg, did Hamlet, did the whole play, not the short version, and Hamlet is an ink blot. He's played as an ink blot.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to Leigh. Leigh, actually, as I showed you, that he was on a stamp. So there's that stamp. There's a cover of that stamp, so.
Yes, so people get to lick the back of his head. That's another thing gone by the wayside, the stamps. People, I believe people collect stamps,
yes,
but they don't send them on letters. Stinky old letters. No one,
Well, that's not true. That's not true.
It is true. The only letters you get are bills.
Well, that's or the odd Christmas card.
Well, I get some very odd Christmas cards.
Yeah. Anyway, he's an interesting man.
Yeah.
And he's interested in Australian cartoonists. He knows he's done his homework.
Is he? Yeah.
Not all cartoonists have done their homework.
I hate homework.
No. He knows what came before him. He knows the tradition. He loves all those black and white guys, the old blokes, And he comes to the ACA, the Australian Cartoonists Association meetings, and he sits around and talks to the old blokes in particular. Yeah. He's a very funny man too, but he's also very private. And I see him at the Cinematheque. He likes old movies.
Right. Yeah.
He likes his old French movies and the old Hollywood stuff.
The old French movies.
Yeah.
How old are the French movies?
40s, 50s.
Oh, right.
30s.
Les Enfants du Paradis.
Yes. Oh, showing off, are you?
Yeah.
Who made it? Not showing off that much.
I did know the name.
Off the hook.
I did know the name.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressing you, the film. Well, you've got him already.
Les Enfants du Paradis.
Yeah. The Children of Paradise.
Yeah, which refers to the theatre.
The theatre, yeah.
The stalls.
It's a famous film that was made in Paris during the Nazi occupation.
Yep.
And they
didn't like it.
Well, he was employing... the director was employing a lot of Jewish people.
Yep. And smuggling them out.
And smuggling them out, that's right.
That's it.
And I think the end of the film, there's this big thing in the street. I think they built a set half a mile long just for that. Yeah, good film. And it's about the mime, the famous mime.
Yeah.
And all these other characters who hang around theatre.
Well, he was a clown, wasn't he?
Pierrot and Pierrot.
Yeah.
Poor little Pierrot, where's your Pierrot? Yeah.
I keep confusing him with Poirot.
The guy with the funny
moustache.
The guy with the funny moustache.
Moustache. Yeah, Agatha Christie's Poirot.
Yeah.
So I keep confusing him with him. There's also a...
I prefer the hard-nosed detectives of the American scene than...
Yeah.
than him.
Mickey Spillane and
Yeah, down these mean streets,
yeah.
There's someone we should do. We should do Jim Steranko. You should draw Jim Steranko because he did some wonderful noir stuff.
He did Outland, which was a sci-fi noir comic. He he's still around. He likes film noir. He's a very big fan of film noir.
Yeah.
And
He's always got
incredibly intelligent cartoonist. I once had dinner with him.
Did you? Okay.
Very, very, and he loves magic tricks and very good at it.
He was influenced by
Houdini,
and the Jack Kirby comics, Mr. Miracle, are based on him.
Yep, and he was a member of there's this very famous Society of Magicians, and he's also a member of that society. It's like a secret society. They share
the
secrets.
secret handshakes.
You don't want to shake hands with one of these magicians.
Yeah, you might end up with a rabbit.
Yeah.
Or a dove. Yeah.
So it was very interesting, man. Anyway, getting back to Leigh.
Yeah, getting back to Leigh, back to Australia.
Back to Australia.
Yeah, so he's well travelled. He loves all the arts, and as I said, he takes his sketchbook out and walks down and loves old buildings, and they're in like when he goes to Paris. That book on Mr. Chicken Goes to Paris. Mm-hmm. He goes and draws the Notre Dame and all those places.
Yep.
I think he goes to London once a year.
Right.
And, checks out the Courtauld Institute and all these places. He's, He was, he had a lovely childhood. He told his father he wanted to be an artist, and his father made him a board, a drawing board.
Yeah. So did my father.
Oh, okay.
But I never used the drawing board. I drew on the floor. It was the drawing board meant that you'd have to sit at a desk or a table. Yeah. And I was too far gone.
Oh, too far gone.
Do
you still draw on the floor?
I can, but
you can.
I haven't done for
We'll have to have a session where we film you lying on the floor.
You'd have
drawing.
to put cartoons on the TV in front of me.
Oh yeah, of course. And it'd have to be Hanna-Barbera, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and he complained that he didn't have time to draw. So his father got him a clock, set the alarm for something like 6 o'clock in the morning.
There's always time to draw.
That's right, and he used to get up early and draw before he went to school.
Right.
Which is a good story.
Yeah, it is. So...
And of course, it's interesting because the old Tom character is actually... where did he come from? He originally came from Mr. Punch, from Punch magazines.
Mr. Punch?
Yeah.
You mean Punch and Judy?
Yeah, that's right, Punch. Who Punch moved away from Judy in the magazine.
Right, he had a divorce or
and
killed
then, of
his
course,
wife,
you had that character... Who was it?
There's a Punch magazine.
What are you
and
talking about?
And it's to do with Mr. Punch. This is
the
news
Punch is
to me.
a British magazine. It's
right.
It's a humour magazine. It's the longest running humour magazine in Britain.
Yeah.
And then America's had Judge magazine, was their version of Punch.
So
Australia had a Punch magazine. There was a Tokyo Punch.
I'm thinking of Punch and Judy. So it was
but that's the puppet.
Right.
But it came from Punchinello, which was actually
Italian.
Yeah.
The
theatre.
The misery plays, or whatever they call them.
No misery plays.
Puppet shows.
Yes. Anyway, the point is...
it's like Commedia dell'arte.
Who was it? Sydney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre were in quite a few movies. They were actually in Casablanca.
Yep.
And Sydney Greenstreet had the fez on, remember?
Yep.
And then later on...
Are you talking about...
Now, hang on. I am. No, I'm talking about Punch.
I'm doing International Fez Week.
So, Mr. Old Tom. It's a combination of Punch,
right, and Sydney Greenstreet.
Sydney Greenstreet via Peter Lorre,
right,
and into this cat character,
right.
And he's got drawings of Mr.
Greenstreet.
Old Tom wearing a fez at one stage. Yeah, so that's where he comes from. Because he loves his old movies, his classic movies.
Right.
Peter Lorre and Sydney Greenstreet were spin-offs from Casablanca, and they made about 3 or 4 films together.
Wasn't Maltese Falcon was first though, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I don't know. Because they were in that as well, weren't they? Yeah. But
they didn't wear fezzes till Casablanca.
Okay, but I have a feeling. I don't know. I'm not sure about this, but I have a feeling that Casablanca came before Maltese Falcon.
Really? Okay.
I could be wrong. I generally am. Yeah. Yeah, you've got him.
Who?
You've got Leigh. You've got Leigh.
So, I would really like to know what how he spent most of his life just as a gun for hire, as a
school teacher.
As a school teacher.
Yeah, and
And cartoons? Does he do cartoons or just?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but he's interested in lots of art. As I said, he's done
different
sculpture and pottery. I think actually he had something to do with the merry-go-round at the Melbourne Luna Park as well. I think he did the colouring.
Right.
He's a bit of a colourist.
Yes.
That's one of his skills.
Yep. He's actually got a painted.
Well, there's
sculpture.
Old Tom. Yeah, show him Old Tom. There's Old Tom.
Yeah. It's very
one bung eye.
One
bung eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always carrying his dead fish.
Is he? Where's the dead fish? Oh, I guess it's up
there.
It's his arm that's going around. Yeah, it's probably.
He always carries a dead fish.
Oops, probably a paper. I don't know what that is. Paper mache.
It's paper mache. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he talks about how he was really influenced by Ronald Searle, and so many people were. Ronald Searle is has got this wonderful line that it's a combination of thick, thin, ragged. It's just a wonderful.
Yeah, but it's not thick and thin as to describe form. It's thick and thin as to describe energy.
It's more of an emotional line.
Yeah, it's an energetic.
Yeah, it's more of an emotional line.
It's quite interesting. Actually.
Yeah, and he's very. I mean, he's done cats. He's done cats and pigs. William Ellis Green. We used to talk a lot about different artists, and we talked about how the best cats, because everybody draws cats, all cartoonists draw cats, and they reckon that we both agree that Searle did the best cats and the best pigs. They got this wonderful.
We did a book bite on it, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we need to do more because he's such a great artist.
Yeah,
so I think that
museum film.
I think the 3 major artists of the 20th century were David Lowe, Robert Crumb, and Ronald Searle. Personally, I think those 3 are the greatest and had the most influence.
You're entitled.
Although
to that,
Mad Magazine had a huge influence.
Yeah.
And, Jack Kirby's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
that's
as
it.
As a cartoonist?
Do the crosses for the eyes, because that's it.
Well,
that
means
they're dead. They're dead.
Yeah, they're not.
Or they're drunk. If a guy's sitting there with crosses on his eyes, it means he's drunk.
Dead or dead drunk.
Yeah, dead drunk, correct.
Yeah, so there's a whole lexicon of cartoon symbols that have made it into popular culture via our beloved emoticons that we use, which is now derived obviously from the 1960s smiley face. which was a cartoon.
Have you seen Forrest Gump?
Day. No.
You haven't seen Forrest Gump?
Oh, bits of it.
It has a section in it.
Don't have monsters.
Hang on, it has a section in it where
is there a monster?
The smiley face is invented.
Yeah. Oh, is there?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And they're saying that he invented it.
No. This guy he meets.
Right.
It's just because Forrest Gump is a film about Forrest Gump doesn't really. He says Forrest Gump is just a metaphor for America going through all these different phases.
Well, the
Blessed Trinity. Yeah.
Anything with threes, Three Stooges. Is that the Blessed Trinity?
That's right. Although there were 6 Stooges, weren't there? Or was it 5?
4.
No.
Yeah, Shemp.
Yeah, Shemp.
Curly. Larry.
Yeah, and then
Moe.
And there was those 2 old blokes who came at the end.
Oh, they were extras. They weren't Stooges.
But they were. Of course, they were the Stooges.
No, they weren't.
I forget their names.
Oh, you mean 2 curly?
Yeah, there were 2 curly impersonations.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were 5.
Yeah, them. I only remember them from the film. Three Stooges Go to Mars or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And also the cartoon show, which I didn't mind, but it was sort of like a pale.
Also, because you see, the Three Stooges grew
had.
out of shorts in movies.
Yeah.
And of course, they stopped making shorts, so they started putting them in films, and also they made their money doing public appearances.
Yeah, but
at fairs and things like that.
Yeah, but the Three Stooges, they grouped all the shorts together for TV. So there was a TV show that kids loved.
And so did eye doctors. Eye doctors loved them.
Why? Because they poked their eyes?
Yeah, kids are always coming to eye doctors because someone poked their eyes out,
What about blunting sores on your head? Like have to get your saw resharpened because you've actually lost the teeth on your scalp.
Well, I mean, kids watching wrestling or I don't know, Ninja Turtles or
I don't know, maybe
all these different things.
If I escaped a lot of injuries or something,
I think
you
have.
Understand.
I think lying on the ground doing the
Never
drawings,
would have occurred to me.
I think was a safe space.
Somebody said to me, we used to make star knives out of jam tins.
Yes.
And I looked at them, I said, how do you get jam in tins? Don't you just get those horrible jars that takes 5 hours to open? You got to.
Don't you know that
only the Hulk can open a jam jar?
No, Popeye can. He squeezes them.
Well, you break it then. But that's another trope that is incorrect because spinach has never come in cans.
It does.
Nah,
it did.
Nah.
But the other thing about spinach is that
it gives you diarrhea.
No, spinach. Some woman in the late 80s decided to research spinach.
Right.
And she researched it and found that someone had written an article that Seeger, the bloke who did Popeye, got hold of. And it was news that, if you eat this stuff, it makes you strong. Yeah. But she researched that and then and got the latest research, and spinach doesn't do that at all.
No.
So for 50 years, people were just thinking it's great stuff for you because it makes Popeye strong, but it's not. It's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, spinach is all right.
No, it's not. If you had it, like you think,
I had baby spinach on my salad.
How is he eating this stuff if it tastes revolting? Because spinach is horrible.
Well, he ate it out of the side of his mouth mostly, didn't he?
Yeah, but you think...
I don't think he touched his tongue.
Old sailors have no taste.
I don't think he touched his tongue. He just
tobacco has destroyed his taste buds, maybe.
Yeah, but he yam what he yam.
And that's all they yam.
That's all I can stand, and I can't stand no more.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've really got him.
Yes, there's something about...
He's got a friend called... what's her name? Painter. I think her name is Anna Spadlevis. And she did a portrait of him, which she put in the Archibald, I think. Yep. And a friend of mine had a studio with her,
Oh.
and I'd walk in there and I'd see this painting of him, and I'd look at it and it was a really good picture. And he didn't like it because he said it's too personal. It shows all his bad bits, It's too personal, but most people don't like it.
Are you talking about physical attributes or
psychological stuff,
right?
And I think because she was a friend of his, still is.
Yeah. So it's funny you should say that. That's
But
the
most
reason
people
why
who
I stopped doing portraits.
Why? Because
They're too personal. I can't handle it. It's just too much invasion of my brain. I don't like it.
You don't want people in there, do you?
No, it's not so much that. It's just that you're involved in the painting too much.
Yes.
In the portrait.
But most people don't like their portraits, do they?
No one likes their portraits. No one likes their photos.
Yeah, well, that's
no one
true.
Likes the sound of their own voice. People hate themselves.
Yes, that's true.
That's not my fault.
No, that's not one of your faults, is it? No,
I don't care. People. I don't mind if people hate their portraits as long as they cross my hands with silver.
Shekels.
I had a portrait.
Shekels.
I had a portrait. I'll tell you this story.
Is this relevant?
It's not around anymore.
Is this relevant?
René Rifkin. I did a portrait of René
the
Rifkin.
Bead Man.
And
the Bead Man.
Yeah, and I did it on spec, and he came over to my gallery and he said, I really like it, but I think you got the statue wrong in the corner. So I'm only discounting it to 9,000 instead of 10,000. And I said, no, I didn't get the statue wrong. I just showed him the drawings and things because the statue was in the painting. And he said, no, I think you got the statue wrong. And then he sent his chauffeur all the way into... The same chauffeur got in trouble, by the way. Sent the chauffeur all the way into town to get the statue and bring it back into the gallery to prove to me that I got it wrong. And it stood there. He put it up on the table and he said, there. And he said, oh, wait a minute. No, you got it right. But he still discounted it to $9,000. Yeah. So I thought that was really funny.
Is that the reason you got out of it, because the discounting that goes on?
No, it was more a case of there's a lot of trouble with portraits. You've got to go to a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And I was really, really busy.
Yeah.
With illustrations at the time.
There's that famous picture of him in the back seat of a car, open car, with his hands on the side, hair going through the wind, and he's going over the Sydney Harbour Bridge or something, wasn't it? It's famous. René Rifkin.
Ah.
He's got his beads in his hand.
Yeah. I know he had a boat as well, apparently.
Yeah.
He loved the portrait. He had it.
Well, it was sort of famous for a while.
It was a bit scary for him.
It was famous for a while because I didn't know you did that portrait personally. I didn't know you then, but I knew that portrait. It kept on turning up in the papers and stuff.
Oh, did it? I didn't know.
Yeah.
You'll have to show me some of the cuttings. That means you didn't save them. Okay.
No, I've got them somewhere. They're probably in the René Rifkin file.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. So portraits, I can understand. They are a little bit confronting for people. Certainly, also for the artist. Funny enough, they're very confronting for the artist.
Well, like most artists have these, like one of my favourite books is Self-Portraits by Artists, and they have these wonderful eyes because, like in this portrait here, you've really captured his eyes, how he looks, because he's a
It's got an intelligent expression.
Yeah, he is,
and very inquiring, and
yes.
it's very, it looks very affable. Looks like a very nice person. It's not really quick to temper.
Well, I don't know. He was a school teacher for a long time,
Yeah. No, I think there is a certain sternness or matter of factness about him.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of questions in his head. Like he really knows what he's talking about and what he's doing. So usually people have question marks. It shows up on their face. It's like they have these expressions here.
Like the Riddler.
Yeah.
have a question mark on their face.
Yep. Where did I pick up that? So, yeah. So, what else? Tell me more about it. Have you read the children's books?
Yeah, I've read them all. Read them all.
Yeah.
I've got all these books.
Do you want to read something from?
Okay, we can't.
Old Tom,
because of copyright, we can't.
Copyright.
Yeah, you can't read the whole book.
No, I'm not asking you to read the whole book.
You know,
do a trailer.
So
Teaser.
This is Mr. Chicken. Mr. Chicken loved to travel. His French friend Yvette had invited him to visit, so he studied his maps, grabbed his camera and caught a taxi to the airport. Mr. Chicken flew to France, Paris to be exact. Economy. Now, that is over 3 pages long. As the clouds parted, Mr. Chicken was thrilled to see Paris way down below. "Fasten your seatbelt, please, sir," said the air hostess. "We're about to land." I mean, the point is, here he is...
You've stopped.
Hang on. Here he is in the taxi.
Yeah.
So he takes up the whole taxi.
Yeah.
And when he's in the plane... There he is. When he's in the plane...
Yeah.
Look
at the guy in the window seat next to him.
Yeah. I mean, his eyes
Not
as
happy.
big as that bloke next to him. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying he's
The humour.
drawings. It's the drawings is where most of the humour is.
Yeah. And it comes from the choice of style and also you're able to create something simply and succinctly that shows expression.
Yeah.
And portrays
and
emotions.
The kids love him because his drawing's so accessible. They think they can draw that.
Exactly, and it invites you to draw it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and that's why he's really loved.
That's why that's why I liked Hanna-Barbera when I was a kid. I used to draw Hanna-Barbera characters.
Yeah.
Because they were accessible. Whereas I loved Bugs Bunny, but I couldn't draw Bugs Bunny because it was so fast. They moved across the screen too fast. But I did enjoy...
did you get sore necks? Lying on the floor? Looking up?
Sometimes I'd lie under the television and look up at the valves and things, and
there's no place
like a metropolis-style city.
There's no place like...
Yeah, ohms and serial numbers and stuff. They have valves. Like, my mother had a wireless from the 50s.
Oh yeah, Bakelite rotor. Bakelite rotor.
A cream Bakelite one.
Oh yeah, Astor.
Philips.
Did it have a little bit of material between?
Yes.
The speaker.
Yeah.
And it used to fuzz. Like used to slightly vibrate.
I can't remember the fuzzy.
Mine did.
You had your thing turned up too loud. The bass turned up too loud, although they didn't have bass.
I don't think
mono.
we had bass. No.
You had the speakers turned up, volume turned up.
Well, I mean, any volume was better than the crystal sets where you had to put the headphones on.
What's a crystal set?
Don't you know what a crystal set is?
Is that a home radio?
Yeah, it's ham
radio.
You could make them. Actually,
ham radio. Yeah.
And you had to listen to
satellites and
no, it's pre-satellites.
Pre-satellites.
Yeah. Pre-satellites. You had to put
There's
on...
such a thing as a pre-satellite.
You had to put on...
How the hell does that happen? Pre-satellites. You're talking
satellites
about...
are 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm talking
57.
about 40s and early 50s.
Oh, okay, well... Okay.
Kids had...
a whole different world to me.
Kids had, crystal sets. You could buy them or you could make them. As a matter of fact...
Dick Smith.
A friend of my brother... No, God, I don't think Dick Smith was born. You could actually make a crystal set using a Gillette razor blade as your crystal.
What's a razor blade?
A razor blade is what you used to put blades into your shaver.
Ah, all those funny shaped things.
Yeah,
with the like a.
Yeah, with. They had a thing in the middle that slotted in and... Yeah.
And there was like...
On both sides, yeah.
Gillette and Chic and things like that. Cool. Interesting.
So so he had a father who he had a family. He grew up in the country, had a lovely childhood. He talks about his childhood, riding his bike around the town.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which town he was born in, but and his father was. I think he was influenced a lot by his father.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
well, my father was supportive of my.
Well, it's terrific if you have,
career.
like,
my career.
My father, he couldn't care less if I drew or not, but I'm just saying if you have a parent who actually fosters your art, that's wonderful. I think that's just, especially, I mean, it gives you a great foundation to keep going.
I was never questioned about spending money on comics, but I was questioned once about what's all this money going out on horror stuff.
Yeah, I would have said
horror
the same.
Magazines.
Yeah, I would have said the same
spending
thing.
so much my hard-earned cash on horror magazines?
Because horror magazines were expensive.
Yeah.
Especially those early ones.
Yeah. Famous.
And they were hard to get. They
Filmland.
were hard to get too, weren't they?
You had to get them from an importer.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So.
I've never been that interested
my
in
mother
horror.
said, "Well, look, he's an artist, and that's it."
Wow.
That's all you got to say. I said, all right, okay, fair enough.
I was lucky because my mum used to read comics. She used to buy them for herself.
You told me, yeah.
And then give them to me. But my dad, he didn't give a toss whether I.
My dad read Eagle comics.
Ah.
Dan Dare. You like Dan Dare?
Oh yeah. Dan Dare was one of the best drawn comics of my youth.
And also he enjoyed the Trigon Empire.
Yes, well, drawn by the same guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, in
Look and Learn.
Look and Learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did not mind Look and Learn as a learning thing that you could learn things from. That was a good thing, I think.
Yeah,
most kids.
I started buying Look and Learn when it came out, and I put them in folders. I've still got them. They came out in 61, I think, or 63.
You still have them from 1961 or 63?
Yes, and they're in folders.
How about that?
And
isn't that an annoying
they were wonderful
sound? That
because
wasn't my dentist, by the way.
have all
that
these.
Was my pencil sharpener.
Do you want to introduce it? The Look and Learns were great because they had all these different artists working in them.
Yeah.
And they're all hand drawn.
Yeah.
A couple of photos, but mostly hand drawn stuff.
Yeah. So the English comics were a bit different than American comics.
Like they had literature and poetry and all sorts of stuff in
them.
it.
So TV Century 21 had painted panels, painted comic panels.
Yeah.
Harry Linfield was one guy. They had great illustrators working for the comics.
Yeah. Well, also they had this tradition of Christmas albums where they would reprint stuff that they did in the comics through that year, but they'd also hire artists to do special features and stuff, and they had children's encyclopedias, all this sort of stuff. It's all illustrated.
Yes, the albums, the annuals.
Yes,
they were called annuals.
Yeah.
So and you could get a 5-ball XL5 annual and things like that, which I used to get.
They still put them out. I think Viz is still going in England.
Oh, really?
And I think you can still get annuals.
Viz?
Yeah. It's a semi-adult
I know what
magazine based on the old stuff that the kids used to read years ago.
There was a Danny Dare in Viz.
There was a Danny Dare, yeah.
There
was Dennis the Menace.
But a different Dennis.
A different Dennis, yeah.
I don't know how they got away with that one.
I don't know, but I don't think the Americans were impressed. British comics are very different to
They're Captain
American.
Britain. If you ever want to be revolted, there you go. And not even there was a Captain Canuck.
Yeah,
which I thought.
No, he was all right. He's from Canada.
Yeah, he was all right, but
he's better than Captain Britain. He was terrible. He's got a great big Union Jack on his front, going down into his crotch.
Yeah. So
it didn't work out.
No, it wasn't put together by people who liked superhero comics, so it didn't really work.
But they had
well.
different traditions. So like even the French, they got different comic traditions than the British do. You know?
Yeah.
Very, very art orientated.
2008. What? The French?
Yeah.
It's comics. Yeah.
Very art orientated.
What, the comics?
Yeah, the comics were very art orientated. It's only
Tintin?
Yeah. Well, there was more drawing in a Tintin comic than the whole of any American comic.
I remember, I don't know if you told me this, but someone said, you have a look at that car that's overturned, and you can see the detail. That's
me, yeah.
That was you.
Yeah.
I said, how do they do that? Why would they do that? Somebody lay under a car and drew we'll put the axle in and the...
Well, you see, I was interested in that.
Carburetor.
I just thought that, I don't know, you see, I think I was brought up by classic comics like Crumb.
Crumb?
No, hang on.
That's a classic comic.
Barks and Kirby. And these guys really know how to move a story along.
Yeah.
Without that much information in the panel.
Right.
Especially Kirby. And as he went on later, because he was such a... he was such a prolific guy, he didn't fill up his backgrounds much. Did lots of close-ups and stuff. And he really knew how to move a story along briskly, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you come across to these French comics, they've got all this detail in the background,
yeah.
You know. So it's sort of, you slam your comic brakes on, you know. The storytelling.
You slow down and
yes.
You start to read and look at and learn.
Well,
things.
yeah, but I just preferred the drama of the American way. That's all. And I mean, most people, there are people who've never read a comic, but they've all read Tintin.
Yeah.
It's almost like Tintin is like not a comic. It's like in between literature and comics.
I had a really interesting thing with Tintin because I couldn't read Tintin because it was always out. So the only versions of the books that I could read were in French.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Which was
the first Tintins I ever came across were in French.
Yeah, but that was an experience because you're actually missing quite a lot because Tintin is not just a visual experience.
You could get a Disney comic by Barks
and read it, and you don't need to read it
from Italy
English
or something like that, and you could get the story.
Yeah,
but you couldn't do that with. You just couldn't do that with.
No, I'm going to use a black pen. I think to try to get
for the background.
Yeah, I think so.
It's raining fish heads.
Oh yeah, it's in reference to Old Tom.
Yeah, Old Tom was turned into I think it was a French co-production. It's turned into an animated series.
Nice.
Yeah. It's really happy for him.
Yeah. So we'd come back on the ABC probably, or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? There's so much product out there. It's probably on the kids' channel.
Crazy.
It sounds like Disney will go around and mop up everything. You know, anything.
Well, they have their own channel now.
I know, but anything that's animated, they'll buy.
Yeah, they've stopped for a while. I think they're licking their wounds because they've lost a lot of money with the virus.
Yeah, well, they made a lot of money out of the second Lion King, that's for sure.
Did they?
Yeah, they made a lot of money. I thought it was awful.
Yeah.
Really awful. And yet, you know, people think it's terrific. I don't know.
No, they thought it was terrific.
But I think most people who thought it was terrific never saw the first one.
That's probably right.
And I haven't seen Dumbo, but...
I've seen it.
And what's it like?
It's all right. It's it's a Tim Burton film.
Yeah, well,
it's okay.
Yeah,
but it's still a pale example.
Dumbo is a 58-minute short, really. And it was made quickly, but it's delightful. Dumbo's delightful. Although they would have cut out the crows, which was pretty racist, and also.
It's not pretty racist. It wouldn't occur to you.
When I see an elephant fly.
Yeah, but you look at Fritz the cat and things like that, and it's sort of
but Fritz the cat.
It had an imperative, I think, for the time.
Yeah,
which were I think, racist times or times that were insensitive to the feelings of people.
Do they have a hallucinogenic version? Do they have pink elephants on parade
in
the Tim Burton?
Oh yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was the highlight for me. I just sat there. Oh, to me that was just extraordinary. What goes on in that sequence?
Yes, Ward Kimball.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's his most famous scene that he animated. He's never come clean with how did he get those ideas, though.
Well, Ward Kimball was quite a character.
Yeah.
He was quite a character. All the photos you see of him in the studio, he's got made-up hats on his head and all that sort of stuff.
Well, animators, you have to do that because...
Yeah, but I have a feeling that he...
Keep yourself insane
I have a feeling he had...
the work.
He hung out with jazz musicians.
And they all had access to musicians.
And that can mean only one thing.
What's that?
Well, they have those funny cigarettes, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you've got him. By George, he's got him. I don't think he'd be happy with the nose, but...
It balances the face.
Now, he's got an unusual mouth. Now, with your...
it's an arrow.
Yeah, with your sense of physiognomy that's based on geology of the face, what's caused the mouth like that?
Well, if you were to do a cartoon and the character had that sort of expression, what would that signify to you?
Well, I don't know. It reminds me of England for some reason, and British sort of...
Self-satisfaction, smugness?
Bit of that, yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. Where would smugness come from in his personality? It would be assuredness of his talent and his belief in himself. So he has a strong belief in himself and in his abilities.
In front of kids for 23 years...
you need a sense of balance and...
Yeah.
And stay puttedness.
And you never decide to do black inside the glass, do you?
I can. I'll show you what happens, though.
No, well, the reason you don't do it, there is a reason.
Is there?
Well, there must be a reason.
No.
Everybody has their reasons.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't like reasons. Let's have a look at it again. So, there's no real reason. It's just sometimes it's worth carefully investigating it, probably.
Okay. Well, it's all right. I mean, it works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does work both ways because it's glass, and when you don't fill it in like that way you had it before, it's sort of like more reflective.
Absolutely.
You think it's reflective, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to make the fish heads white?
Should I? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've done line work up there, but...
It's whitefish. Flake.
Well, why would the whitefish have white
They're
fish?
flake. They're flake.
Flake.
Whitehead.
You don't know your fish.
I don't know my fish,
flake
no.
Shark?
Yeah, it is. I just think that they'd look a lot better with white heads, that's all. Yeah, there we are.
Fair enough. Good. Let's try to get a bigger pen for this lettering. We've got what is this? This is a 2.5 millimetre.
Now,
Why does it go from 1.8 to 2.5? I guess it goes
The other day you told me this was watercolour.
No, it's acrylic. It's not watercolour.
Yeah, well, you said it was watercolour.
No.
Because when you did the hair of that French actress...
No, I didn't use that.
Oh.
I used watercolour.
Okay. I wasn't here. I was in lockdown.
Lockdown, lock up.
Mm.
This is... what if I should put...
I think you like that. I think you'll like that. Looks pretty good.
We'll try and get a reflection in here. The idea to get a reflection is kind of an artifice. It's sort of a made-up creation. It's sort of like, the
Well, you can't really put
the Dutch windows.
You can't put the French windows in, can you? No.
I don't know. Maybe. Good thing about you have to wait for it to dry, but it does tend to be very opaque. This.
Well, that's good because it look more natural that way.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Again, you have to be. You have to be aware. Look, there's reflections in his glasses, but they're not absolute white. So the glasses is clear. Yeah. So that the reflection should be not so white. So I think that's fair enough to do it like that.
Okay.
This is Leigh
before.
Yeah, and this is some remnants of his creation, Old Tom.
Yes.
And this is Leigh after. And this is Frantz Kantor. And
this is Jim Bridges.
And we'll say to you,
we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye-bye.